You took Cuff off the street.
I never folded, never told.
You told Tammy to tell.
50 Cent is going straight for Big Meech's throat over fresh snitching allegations, as new documents seem to expose Meech as the real informant in Cuffy's case. In those affidavits, it details Meech's full road.
Never folded, never told, never will. Death before the sign.
Yet Big Meech isn't backing down. He firmly claims that there's no substantial evidence tying him to being a snitch. I never fold, never told, never will. Death before dishonor.
I wasn't gonna address this, because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will. Death before the sign, always with me.
In this video, we're breaking down the allegations, the evidence, and everything you need to know about this explosive feud. Cent calls Big Meech a rat. All the fanfare from former crime boss Demetrius Big Meech Flannery's early release from jail last October has disappeared.
You like a put your back against the wall and just slide down.
And has now been replaced by snitching allegations. Barely 2 days after his release from jail, Dion Gatling, aka Cuffy, Big Meech's longtime friend and former business partner,
Big Meech, and you ended up apologizing to 50. If you can you give me the backstory behind that? What's going on with Big Meech?
Yo, bruh, I don't want to be like everybody on the internet and come to any kind of assumptions about this. So I
called out Meech, accusing him of snitching on him to get a reduced sentence for himself. As the drama surrounding Big Meech's alleged snitching raged on, the former drug kingpin found himself in the middle of another storm when he began feuding with rapper 50 Cent. The two had previously enjoyed a close relationship after his release from jail.
And I read the paperwork. You understand? I read what was available. I asked some agents that were friends of mine. They were my fraternity brothers about certain situations. I asked guys who had that.
But their bromance was short-lived, and they now find themselves on opposing sides of the snitching scandal. In his usual manner, 50 Cent drew first blood when he launched a scathing attack on Big Meech in a February 3rd, 2025 Instagram post.
48 kingpin charges. I asked guys who was in jail at the time, and I got all the information from them, but I could be just like everybody else and just have assumptions about the whole situation. So the thing about
accusing him of snitching and going on to tease a tell-all documentary about him. In the post, the Many Men rapper who produces the Starz hit TV series BMF about Meech's Black Mafia Family criminal organization suggested that the recently freed former mafia boss had broken the street code. The post included a picture of a rat with text that read, "I think I'm Big Meech."
50 and me, when I took up for Meech, it was because I've been around Meech. You understand? I've had conversations with Meech, and I always known Meech as being a stand-up guy. You understand?
This was a clear reference to Rick Ross's hit 2010 single BMF Blowin' Money Fast, which was inspired by Big Meech's exploits during his drug organization's iconic reign. Furthermore, the caption of the post also saw 50 hinting at a possible documentary involving Big Meech's former personal assistant, Tammy Cowan.
I do want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film. Which director?
Who is a known federal informant and producer on the hit series BMF. The caption read, "The biggest mistake he ever made was not sustaining his relationship with Tammy Cowens. Her tell-all docu reveals the truth." Since recent fallout...
So then I jumped out the window, you understand, because I didn't see that in Meech. I didn't see him doing that. But that's not none of my business to know the intricate parts of it. So me to speak on that, I had to go and see what was out there. And now,
with Big Meech may be linked to Meech appearing in a video with 50's rival, Rick Ross, promoting a welcome back concert celebrating Meech's release from prison. The event was scheduled to go down on February 13th at the Amerant Bank Arena and had several artists billed to perform, including Lil Baby.
you might have to have a whole nother hour to this, bro, because it's longer than what people realize it is. And I'm going to try to do it as short as possible. Is this Meech and that girl Tammy Collins, who
21 Savage, Sexy Red, 42 Doug, Moneybag Yo, Kodak Black, T Grizzly, Sada Baby, and many more. Rick. Ross was also scheduled to perform BMF for Big Meech for the first time. Unfortunately, 50's Way took all the shine off the announcement of the concert, even though there was no real
somehow he gave his rights to the BMF thing too. You understand? And she was giving it up on both sides to the panties to everybody. That's what you could tell, because she was even having sexual relationships with the agent and the DEA, T-State agents. You do not get
evidence to suggest that the snitching allegations were true. Social media platforms ran with the story, and before long, a court document surfaced online that seemingly showed that Big Meech may have enlisted the help of Tammy Cowens to snitch on Cuffy in a grand scheme to get himself out of jail earlier than his sentencing. The document reveals that Big Meech introduced Cowens to Cuffy to transact illicit drug dealings on his behalf, but she later
involved with the women that you are got under investigations and they CIs for you. But somehow she got to this agent, and this agent was giving her mad money, $2,500 a week. And then she gets a check for $80,000. She gets checks for $250,000. They had to cut it off so he wouldn't have to
provided details of their dealings to the feds. Ironically, this is the same Tammy Cowens who has now seemingly turned on Big Meech with her tell-all documentary in the works alongside 50 Cent. It's becoming increasingly likely that more details about this third-party cooperation deal will come to light in the coming days. In the meantime, 50 Cent has continued trolling Big Meech on social media. Barely a few hours after implying that Meech was a rat, 50 shared another post on Instagram.
They had to cut him out the system where he couldn't give her nothing, and he couldn't have no rights to the computers or anything, bro. It was crazy. So now what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing is that Meech connected her allegedly with the dude Cuffy, but I don't believe that he connected her with Cuffy as far as the paperwork going, because Meech would have been recharged and everything. If he would have connected her with Cuffy,
Instagram that included a video in which he imposed Meech's head onto a man admitting he snitched. In the caption of the since-deleted post, 50 Cent again teased that he was collaborating with Tammy Cowens on a documentary. He wrote, "He had Tammy Cowens doing all his dirty work. Her new tell-all breaks it down. Screech directed her and connected her to people to get his time cut." After waves of attacks from 50 Cent that continued over 48 hours, Big Meech finally broke his silence in a February 5th, 2025.
Probably would have been recharged, you know what I'm saying, for the drug trafficking thing that they caught Cuffy in, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? But it's paperwork out there. I believe that he connected her with Cuffy because Cuffy wanted to buy the rights, you know, to do the movie or whatever like that. And then somehow it got to whereas that the agents knew Cuffy and used her to get at him with these other people, these other two Spanish dudes that people don't talk about, Suarez and Fernando or whatever like that. Because those Spanish guys don't care nothing. Those Mexicans don't care nothing about blacks. They snitch on you. Y'all talk about ratting and snitching on them. That's all they do. They call that business.
Instagram post. In the post, Meech shared a picture of himself and 50 Cent when the rapper came to visit him at his home after he was released from prison back in October 2024. In the picture, the two appeared to be having a good time and had their arms draped over each other's shoulders. However, 50's face had been edited out and replaced with a cartoonish image of a rat holding onto a slice of cheese. At the same time, the caption "Internet Gangster" repeatedly popped up across 50's body. And Meech finished up by adding Ja Rule's 2003 hit track Clapback, or a diss song that was directed at 50 Cent and Eminem. Unfortunately for Meech, his attempt to get back at 50 didn't have his desire.
Call that business. So what I'm seeing is far different from what I'm hearing. In the paperwork, you don't see that Meech was a cooperative third party. Because when I spoke to the agents that I spoke to, shout out to my bros, when I spoke to them, they said this: in order for Tammy to have
outcome, as fans took to the comment section of the post to slam the former drug kingpin for seemingly betraying the person who put food on his table. One of the top comments read, "He's not an internet gangster. He's a guy who made your son very famous and added a bigger legacy to your name. And you did business with an opposition of his who did nothing for you but shout you out in a song." The fan was referring to Big Meech recently linking up with 50 Cent's longtime rival Rick Ross to promote his Welcome Back concert. This was seen as an act of betrayal by 50, and many fans feel the rapper is justified in his reaction. Interestingly, the back and forth between 50 and Meech has possibly reignited the feud between Ross and 50. First, Rick Ross responded to 50, Cent complaining about Meech linking up with him by brutally trolling him in an Instagram.
Meech as a cooperating third-party cooperative, the agent has to speak to Meech at least once with his legal counsel. They're going to draw up the paperwork, and it's some kind of secret thing that I forgot the name of it, man. I'm sorry about that. But they draw up the paperwork that he's going to be a third-party cooperative with, and she's going to be working off time for him. This is what the agents them are telling me. He said they cannot do that unless they talk to Meech. Now, there's nowhere in that paperwork that is said that the agent spoke to Meech or Meech is in that paperwork, because they have to write everything and present that. They got to cross their T's and dot their I's. Now, I'm getting this from agents who do the work for the DEA. They retired so they could tell me this. You understand? So,
Live video. Ross began the video by comically imitating his longtime rival. He took a picture with Rick Ross. Ross mimicked while pretending to be crying. He then continued, "You like to put your back against the wall and just slide down." A few days later, Ross got back on the trolling bus, and this time, he threatened to hijack 50's BMF TV show. While taking to Instagram Live, the rapper let his fans know that he was considering making his own BMF production, and also labeled 50's production as lackluster. He said, "I do want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster small-budget series. Now..."
You say, well, why? They were good. Rick Ross hadn't done any of these things. Hey, man, 48 laws of power, right? 50 is going to prepare itself in the event or just in case you do try to do something to violate it. Look, this gonna get ugly.
Last few weeks, and the whole drama has sent social media into a frenzy, with fans and celebrities split on their opinions. While some people believe that Meech snitched and deserves no respect, others have come out in his support and also criticized the rationale behind third-party snitching. Some others have noted that there's no way to prove that Cowens was being influenced by Meech and wasn't acting in her own capacity. Despite the pushback from some of Big Meech's supporters, Cuffy has continued to make sure that he has his say on the controversy. Earlier in February, he got on a live phone call with Blue Da Vinci and provided a detailed account of what transpired to help clear the doubts about Big Meech's culpability. While on a jail phone call, Cuffy explained the whole concept of the third.
What Big Meech did was called a third-party cooperation. So Tammy Cowens signed up to be a DEA informant to give Demetrius Flannery a time cut, plain and simple.
It's time to do a big-budget film. He then went on to list a handful of big-name directors, including F. Gary Gray, Antoine Fuqua, and Quentin Tarantino. Ross ended the video by letting out a long laugh before hyping himself up some more and dragging 50 down.
I looked at that. Now I go back and I look at the whole situation and I say, well, I didn't see nothing that in that paperwork. Maybe it's some out there. I don't know. I didn't see it. I can only go by what I hear and what I see. So now I look at Meech's paperwork and look at his time, and it coincides with the time cuts and all this stuff like that. But then I was like,
down. Amidst all the drama, another of 50 Cent's foes, Young Buck, took the opportunity to take a dig at 50. In a short clip, Buck congratulated Big Meech on his newfound freedom before issuing a warning to you-know-who. He said, "Shout out to Big Meech, welcome home. Quit playing with dude. Quit playing with dude. You know, I'ma say that much." With Big Meech receiving love from Ross and some other rappers, he finally addressed the snitching allegations circulating on social media.
in our time, because there's a lot of guys that sold way more drugs than Meech. They got a guy in California, one guy that sold way more drugs than the whole BMF thing. You understand what I'm saying? So, but why did he get the time cut? And then I had to see that his cooperation with the government was not taking it to trial. His cooperation with the government was convincing his brother not to go to trial. His cooperation with the government was telling the 5 people below him that he supervised in his plea agreement. And everybody does.
Yeah, telling fans in a video shared to Instagram that he never folded and never will. I wasn't going to address this because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will. Death before dishonor. Always with me. He then concluded the video by promoting his concert and urged fans to come out to the Amarant Bank Arena on February 13th. Soon after Meech dropped the video, 50 Cent shared a clip of himself reacting.
Does that? They do a plea agreement, they say what they did, and the government, they had to go in front of the judge and say, yo, the government, the prosecutor said, that's true, something else is true. So that's what they have to do. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what he did. He helped the government in a plea agreement by not going to trial. That would have been a 6 to 8 month trial because they had about 35 to 50 witnesses.
To Meech's video. While playing Meech's video, 50 could be heard countering each of his claims in the background. When Meech says he wouldn't let anybody trick him off the street, 50 responds, "You tricked Cuff off the street. I never fold, never told. You told Tammy to tell." Peace then taunted Meech over his homecoming concert, suggesting that it would be a flop.
Against them. And then you got to realize, and that's how he got the cut, not the kingpin charge. It's a 848C or something like that, 848BC. I don't know what the shit it is. I don't remember it. But that's why he didn't get. He got the 30 years, and then he got certain time cuts for not going to trial, for convincing.
He said, "Y'all going to be disappointed when Lil Baby don't show up? He can't even go. You can't even go." Vincent doubled down on his claims in the caption, insisting that Meech wouldn't even be attending his own concert. He wrote, "If the artists on the bill don't show up, are you going to want a refund?" The rapper added, "Big Screech is not even going to be there. He can't go out after 6 p.m., but don't take my word for it. Go ahead, knock yourself out." Would eventually get the last laugh when the concert was canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. But while Meech was still licking his wounds from the canceled show, 50 Cent went ahead to share an audio where rapper and BMF member Blue...
Like his response, it seemed like he got a genuine kind of love for 50 on his response. But, you know, my response, man, you. Get at my daddy, you. Let's go to war, you.
Da Vinci can be heard saying Tammy Cowens has paperwork and wiretaps on Big Meech. In the audio, Cuffy says, "Tammy Cowens. She's privileged to what's called the affidavits in support of the wiretaps." Okay? It's like 3 affidavits. In those affidavits, it details Meech's full road. While many of these are still mere allegations, the fact that it's coming from someone who worked with Meech for several years makes it too hard.
His brother not to go to trial, and I guess he convinced the 5 people that he said that he said that he supervised. Because, you know, they didn't have an opportunity, I guess, because had they went to trial, you know, Meech already gave a statement that he supervised them. So they couldn't go to trial. So it's a whole lot of shit in there that I cared nothing of, but I cared enough to look at it because I jumped out the window on 50. So 50 has some other information. 50 has
to overlook. But are there any truths to these snitch allegations? And what exactly was Meech's role in how Cuffy ended up in jail? How Big Meech betrayed longtime friend Cuffy? Over the last few weeks, there has been so much talk about Big Meech's alleged snitching, but there has been little or no evidence to back those claims up. However, the court document that recently surfaced online has not only created a new twist in the whole story, but also draws the link between the leading figures in this controversy. The document exposed a drug distribution conspiracy between 3 parties: Demetrius Flannery, Dion Gatling, and Fidel Suarez. While Big Meech was the purported national...
So as far as that Meech thing and that 50 thing, bruh, I want to stay out of it. I said what I said because I told you that I was going to tell you, like, and your fans, what was the situation with that and what I found out about that. You understand? But that's one thing I want to stay out of it right there. And I respect both of them as men. That's their thing. They do their thing. You know, 50 didn't jump out the window on me because he know as a man that I'm my own man and I've always been. And he know no matter who it is or whatever the situation, I'm going to always stand up